The asteroid came from nowhere, a mountain of rock and ice moving faster than anything Earth scientists had ever tracked. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the observation deck window of the International Space Station, watching the emergency broadcasts flood in from every major city below. The calculations were simple and terrible. Impact in 72 hours. Extinction in 73. God help us all, whispered Commander Rodriguez beside her. There's nothing we can do. Sarah stared at the blue marble spinning beneath them, thinking of her daughter Emma playing in their backyard in California. 7 billion people going about their daily lives, most of them still unaware that humanity had 3 days left to exist. The first sign something had changed came as a shimmer in space, like heat waves rising from summer pavement. Then the shimmer grew solid, revealing a ship unlike anything human minds had imagined. It was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at, all flowing curves and surfaces that seemed to bend light around them. The vessel was easily 10 times larger than the space station, yet it moved with the grace of a dancer. Unknown vessel, this is ISS command. Rodriguez transmitted on all frequencies. Please identify yourself. The response came not through their radios but directly into their minds. The voice was warm, ancient, and impossibly kind. Greetings, children of Earth, we are the Kethamori. We have been watching your species for some time and we bring aid in your hour of need. Sarah felt tears streaming down her face, though she couldn't say why. The presence in her mind felt like coming home after a long journey, like being wrapped in her grandmother's quilt on a cold night. You face extinction, the voice continued. We offer salvation freely given, as is our way with younger species who show promise. Through the station's external cameras, they watched as smaller ships detached from the main vessel. These craft were sleek and purposeful, accelerating toward the incoming asteroid at speeds that should have been impossible. Sarah held her breath as the lead ship positioned itself directly in the asteroid's path. What happened next defied every law of physics humanity understood. The ship didn't fire weapons or deploy explosives. Instead, it simply touched the asteroid's surface and the massive rock began to slow. Other ships joined the first, and together they guided the mountain of death away from Earth's path, shepherding it toward empty space like cosmic sheepdogs. Within 6 hours, the asteroid was gone. Humanity was safe. The Kethamori ship returned to orbit around Earth, and its commander requested permission to visit the planet's surface. The meeting took place at the United Nations building in New York, with representatives from every nation watching in stunned silence as Ambassador Veltar walked among them. He was humanoid but clearly alien, standing nearly 8 feet tall with skin that shifted between silver and blue like oil on water. His eyes were larger than human eyes, filled with stars that seemed to move in slow spirals. When he spoke aloud, his voice carried the same warmth they had felt in their minds. Your species stands at a crossroads, Veltar said, addressing the assembled leaders. You have the potential for greatness, but you also have the capacity for terrible destruction. We have seen both paths in your short history. Dr. Marcus Webb, the elderly philosopher who served as humanity's unofficial spokesperson, stepped forward. Why did you save us? What do you want in return? Veltar's expression was one of genuine puzzlement. We want nothing. We act as we have always acted, guiding younger species toward their potential. There is joy in watching a civilization take its first steps among the stars. But surely there must be something, Dr. Webb pressed. Resources, territory, trade agreements. No, Veltar said simply. We ask only that you remember this kindness when you are able. When your species has grown strong and wise, perhaps you too will help others in need. The silence stretched for long moments. Finally, Dr. Webb spoke again, his voice heavy with emotion. You don't understand. Humans don't forget debts. When someone saves our lives, we owe them everything. This isn't just kindness to us, it's a sacred obligation. Veltar tilted his head, confused. There is no obligation. The gift is freely given. But we receive it as a debt, Dr. Webb insisted. A debt that must be repaid no matter the cost. Sarah watched from the observer's gallery as Dr. Webb did something that surprised everyone in the room. He took out a small knife and drew it across his palm, letting drops of blood fall onto the United Nations floor. By blood spilled and witnessed, Dr. Webb said formally, humanity swears that this debt will be repaid. When the Kethamori have need, we will answer. This oath is binding upon our children and our children's children until the stars grow cold. A murmur ran through the assembled delegates, This wasn't part of any planned ceremony. Dr. Webb was acting on pure human instinct, following traditions older than civilization itself. Veltar stared at the blood on the floor, then at the determination in every human face. This is unnecessary. We do not require such promises. You may not require them, Dr. Webb said quietly. But we do. Humans must have honor, or we are nothing. The Kethmori ambassador studied them for a long moment, and Sarah thought she saw something like concern flicker across his alien features. Very well. We witness your oath, though we hope you will never feel the need to fulfill it. Before departing, the Kethmori shared basic technologies with humanity: faster-than-light travel, advanced materials, clean energy sources. They called these graduation gifts for a species ready to join the galactic community. Use them wisely, Veltar warned. Technology without wisdom leads only to greater capacity for destruction. As the beautiful alien ship disappeared into the void, Dr. Webb remained on the steps of the United Nations building, staring up at the stars. Sarah approached him, still wearing her astronaut uniform. "Do you think they understood what just happened?" she asked. Dr. Webb shook his head slowly. "They see us as children making dramatic promises. They don't understand that humans are the only species in the galaxy that hunts in packs, fights in groups, and dies for strangers. They saved us all, so now we belong to them, body and soul. That frightens you." "It should frighten everyone," Dr. Webb said. "The Kethmori think they saved a civilization. What they actually did was create the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy, a grateful human race." Sarah looked up at the stars, thinking of the debt they now carried. "How long do you think it will take us to be ready?" 50 years, Dr. Webb said without hesitation. "Maybe less. Humans don't just grow, we explode outward like wildfire. When we're ready to repay this debt, the galaxy won't know what hit it." He was right, though none of them could imagine just how right. In 50 years, humanity would spread across hundreds of worlds, master technologies that made their alien benefactors seem primitive, and build the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. All because they remembered a kindness. And humans never forget a debt. The galaxy would learn this lesson too late to change what was coming. When the time came to repay the Kethmori, humanity would remind everyone why gratitude, in the wrong hands, could be the most terrifying force in the universe. 50 years had passed since the day Earth almost died, and the galaxy barely recognized the species that had once been confined to a single blue world. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the latest intelligence reports scroll across her screens. At 78, she should have retired decades ago. But humans didn't retire from debts of honor. "Admiral," her aide Lieutenant Torres called out, "we're receiving priority communications from Kethmori space. It's Ambassador Veltar himself." Sarah's heart clenched. Veltar had aged badly in the past decade, and Kethmori didn't age badly unless something was seriously wrong. She nodded to Torres. "Put him through." Private channel. The hologram that appeared showed a figure barely recognizable as the proud alien who had once saved humanity. Veltar's skin had lost its shifting colors, now a dull gray that spoke of exhaustion and fear. The stars in his eyes had dimmed to barely visible points. "Sarah Chen," Veltar's voice was weak but warm, "you have grown old in service to your species. As have you, old friend. What troubles the Kethmori?" Veltar's image flickered, and Sarah realized he was transmitting from a ship, not a planet. "The Vorthak have returned. We thought them extinct, eliminated in the Great War 5,000 years ago." "We were wrong." Sarah felt ice form in her stomach. She had studied every alien species humanity had encountered, and the Vorthak were the stuff of galactic nightmares. A hive-minded swarm that consumed entire worlds, converting all biological matter into more soldiers. They had nearly destroyed the galaxy once before. "How many ships do they have?" Sarah asked. "Ships?" Veltar made a sound that might have been laughter if it weren't so bitter. "They don't use ships anymore, Sarah. They have become ships. Living vessels the size of moons, each one carrying billions of warriors. They evolved during their time in dark space, became something worse than we ever imagined." The transmission showed images that made Sarah's military-trained mind recoil. Massive organic structures that pulsed like beating hearts, launching clouds of smaller creatures that swarmed over planets like antibodies attacking an infection. Entire star systems going dark as the swarm consumed everything that lived. "What does the Galactic Council say?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. "The Council debates. Veltar said with disgust. They formed committees. They send strongly worded communications demanding the swarm respect galactic law. 3 member species have already withdrawn their fleets to protect their core worlds. Sarah pulled up the tactical display showing current human fleet positions. 237 worlds, 18 military shipyards, 46 research stations, and countless mining operations spread across a quarter of the galaxy. In 50 years, humanity had become the fastest-growing civilization in galactic history. What the other species didn't know was that every single human installation had been built with one purpose in mind, repaying the debt to the Keth Mori. Where is your homeworld now? Sarah asked. Under siege, Veltar admitted. We evacuated most of our people, but millions remain. The defense fleet can hold for perhaps 2 months before. He didn't finish the sentence. Sarah closed her eyes and felt the weight of 50 years of preparation settling on her shoulders. Every human leader had known this day would come eventually. The Keth Mori had too many enemies, had made too many sacrifices protecting younger species. Someone would eventually come for them, and when they did, humanity would be ready. Veltar, I need you to listen carefully. In 72 hours, every human military commander in the galaxy will receive a coded transmission. When they do, you will see what 50 years of human gratitude looks like. Sarah, we cannot ask you to. You're not asking, Sarah interrupted. We're telling you. A debt is owed, and humans pay their debts. After ending the transmission, Sarah activated her command authorization and sent a single coded message to every human installation, ship, and outpost in the galaxy. The time has come. Protocol Omega is now in effect. The Keth Mori need us. The response was immediate and total. On world after world, humans received the message and knew exactly what it meant. They had been preparing for this moment since the day their planet was saved. Within 6 hours, every human civilian ship was reporting to military requisition centers. Cargo haulers were fitted with missile racks. Passenger liners received armor plating and weapon systems. Mining ships were converted into assault vessels. The galaxy watched in amazement as humanity's merchant fleet transformed into the largest military armada ever assembled. On industrial worlds, factories that had been producing consumer goods switched overnight to military production. Orbital shipyards that usually built exploration vessels began churning out warships at a rate that defied economic logic. Humans worked in shifts around the clock, sleeping in their workstations, driven by a purpose that transcended individual survival. The galactic intelligence networks went into overdrive trying to understand what they were seeing. For 50 years, humans had seemed like eager traders and explorers, spreading across the galaxy with infectious enthusiasm. They made friends easily, adapted to local customs, and seemed genuinely interested in learning from other species. What the galaxy hadn't realized was that every human trader was also an intelligence operative. Every explorer had been mapping strategic resources and defensive positions. Every human settlement was actually a forward military base disguised as a civilian colony. President Maria Santos of the Terran Federation called an emergency session of the Human High Council. Representatives from every human world attended, either in person or by quantum link. The debate was brief and unanimous. The Keth Mori saved our species, President Santos said simply. Everything we are, everything we've become, exists because they chose to help us. Now they need help, and we will provide it. Admiral Chen presented the military assessment. We have 1,700 frontline warships with another 3,000 support vessels. Our total military personnel number 43 million, with another 100 million in reserves. We can field the largest military force in galactic history. What about civilian casualties? Asked Governor Park from Alpha Centauri. There won't be any, Admiral Chen replied. This is a military operation, not a war of conquest. We go in, eliminate the Vorthak threat, and leave. Clean, precise, overwhelming. Dr. Elena Vasquez, who had taken Dr. Webb's place as humanity's chief philosopher, raised a concern that had been troubling many humans. Are we sure we want to reveal our true capabilities? Once the galaxy sees what we're really capable of, they'll never trust us again. The room fell silent. It was a valid point. For 50 years, humanity had carefully maintained the image of a friendly, harmless species. If they showed their true military might, everything would change. President Santos spoke for all of them. The Keth Mori didn't hesitate to save us when we were strangers. We won't hesitate to save them now that they're family. As the Human High Council voted to authorize full military mobilization, Emergency sessions were being called on every major world in the galaxy. Alien intelligence services were frantically trying to understand how humanity had hidden such massive military capabilities. The Altarian Minister of Defense reviewed the latest reports with growing alarm. They have weapons platforms we've never seen before. Energy signatures that don't match any known technology. How is this possible? His aide, a nervous young Altarian named Kevath, shuffled through data files. Sir, we may have misunderstood human industrial capacity. They've been building military equipment disguised as civilian infrastructure for decades. On the Centauran homeworld, similar conversations were taking place. The revelation that humanity possessed the largest military force in the galaxy sent shockwaves through every major government. But it was on Veltar's refugee ship that the most important conversation took place. The aging Kethamori ambassador sat in his meditation chamber, feeling the weight of what his people's kindness had created. We saved them from an asteroid, he whispered to himself, and they became the most dangerous species in the galaxy. His aide, a younger Kethamori named Julanth, tried to offer comfort. Perhaps they will use their power wisely. Veltar stared out at the stars, remembering the blood oath ceremony 50 years ago. Dr. Webb's warning echoed in his memory. Humans were the only species that hunted in packs and died for strangers. They will save us, Veltar said quietly, and afterward the galaxy will never be the same. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the largest gathering of human military leaders in history. Representatives from every fleet, every world, every military installation in human space had come together for this moment. The massive holographic display behind her showed the current tactical situation. Red markers indicating Vorthak positions slowly spreading across Kethmori space like a cancer. 50 years ago, Sarah began, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast assembly hall. The Kethmori saved our species from extinction. Today we return that favor. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. These were not politicians or diplomats. These were soldiers, engineers, and strategists who had spent their entire careers preparing for this single moment. Protocol Omega is now active, Sarah continued. All civilian activities are suspended. All industrial capacity is redirected to military production. All reserve personnel are activated. As of this moment, the entire human species is at war. The transformation that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Within 72 hours, humanity revealed the true scope of what they had built in 50 years of apparent peaceful expansion. On every human world, hidden weapons depots opened their doors. Massive guns that had been disguised as communication towers rose from the surface. Orbital platforms that had appeared to be simple shipping stations revealed themselves as heavily armed fortress complexes. Captain Marcus Rivera watched from the bridge of his cargo ship as the transformation protocols activated. His vessel shuddered as armor plating slid into place, covering the fake cargo bays that actually housed missile systems. The ship's disguised reactor came online at full power, revealing energy output levels that dwarfed most military vessels. All stations report ready for combat operations, his weapons officer announced. Rivera nodded grimly. For 15 years he had pretended to be a simple freight captain, moving goods between human colonies. In reality, he commanded one of the most advanced warships ever built, hidden in plain sight among the galaxy's shipping lanes. Similar scenes played out across human space. The research station at Proxima Base revealed itself as a massive weapons manufacturing facility. The mining operation in the Vega system deployed a fleet of armored ships that had been disguised as asteroid processors. Everywhere the galaxy looked, peaceful human activities transformed into military assets. On Earth, President Santos addressed the planet from the Emergency Command Center beneath Geneva. "Citizens of Earth and all human worlds," she said, her image broadcast across every human settlement in the galaxy. "The time has come to repay an old debt. The Kethmori saved us when we had nothing to offer in return. Now we have everything to offer, and we will give it freely." The response from human civilians was immediate and overwhelming. Factories retooled overnight to produce military equipment. Shipping companies volunteered their entire fleets for military service. Young humans lined up at recruitment centers in numbers that overwhelmed processing facilities. Dr. Elena Vasquez watched the mobilization from her office at the Institute for Galactic Studies. As humanity's leading expert on alien psychology, she understood better than most what they were about to unleash on the galaxy. "We're going to terrify them," she said to her assistant, Dr. Kim Park. "The Vorthak?" Dr. Park asked. "Everyone," Dr. Vasquez replied. "The galaxy has never seen a species mobilize like this. Total war is a uniquely human concept. Other species fight for territory or resources or survival. We're fighting because someone was kind to us 50 years ago." Meanwhile, aboard Veltar's refugee ship, the aging Kethmori ambassador watched the tactical displays with growing amazement and horror. Human fleet formations were appearing throughout the galaxy, moving toward Kethmori space with speed and coordination that defied belief. "How many ships do they have?" Julinth asked, staring at the display. "More than we thought possible," Veltar whispered. "Look at these formations. Each one is larger than our entire remaining fleet." What neither of them could see were the preparations happening in the spaces between stars. Human ships that had been disguised as deep space research vessels for decades were revealing their true purpose. These were not exploration ships. They were mobile weapons platforms, capable of engaging entire enemy fleets single-handedly. Commander Lisa Zhang activated her ship's true configuration for the first time in 20 years. The UES Prometheus had posed as an atmospheric research vessel, slowly drifting through empty space while supposedly studying cosmic radiation. In reality, it was a massive weapons platform armed with experimental technology that most of the galaxy didn't know existed. "All systems coming online," her tactical officer reported. "Quantum torpedoes loaded. Gravitational manipulators ready. Temporal displacement field generators standing by." Zhang smiled grimly. "The Vorthak were about to learn what happened when you threatened someone under human protection." Back on the command ship, Admiral Chen received reports from across human space. The numbers were staggering even to her. In 72 hours, humanity had assembled a military force of over 5,000 warships, supported by twice that number of auxiliary vessels. More than 60 million humans were now under military command, with another 100 million in supporting roles. But the ships and soldiers were only part of the story. For 50 years, human scientists had been developing weapons and technologies specifically for this moment. Every alien threat they had studied, every potential conflict they had analyzed, had contributed to a vast arsenal of specialized military equipment. "Admiral," her science officer reported, "Project Prometheus is ready for deployment." Sarah nodded. Project Prometheus was humanity's deepest secret, a weapon system so devastating that they had hoped never to use it. But the Vorthak were not ordinary enemies. They were a threat to all life in the galaxy. "Authorized," she said quietly. The final piece of Protocol Omega was the revelation of humanity's intelligence network. For 50 years, humans had served as traders, diplomats, and advisors throughout the galaxy. What their hosts didn't know was that every single one of them was also a trained intelligence operative. On 1,000 different worlds, humans, civilians, simultaneously revealed their true purpose. Embassy guards shed their ceremonial uniforms to reveal advanced combat armor. Trade representatives opened hidden weapons caches that had been prepared decades in advance. Cultural exchange students activated sophisticated surveillance equipment that had been monitoring alien military capabilities for years. The Galactic Council emergency session that followed was chaos. Representatives from every major species demanded explanations for what they were seeing. "How long have the humans been spying on us?" demanded the Altarian representative. "Since the day we joined the galactic community," Admiral Chen replied via hologram. "We needed to understand the threats our benefactors might face." "You built the largest military force in galactic history without telling anyone," shouted the Centauran delegate. "We built it because we knew this day would come," Sarah replied calmly. "The Kethmori have too many enemies. Someone would eventually try to destroy them. We made sure we'd be ready." The revelation sent shockwaves through every government in the galaxy. Intelligence services that had considered humanity a minor player suddenly realized they had completely misunderstood the newest galactic species. On Veltar's ship, the old ambassador watched human fleets converging on Kethmori space. The lead elements were already engaging Vorthak scout forces, and the results were devastating. Human ships fought with a precision and ferocity that even the ancient Kethmori had never seen. "They're not just fighting for us," Veltar realized suddenly. "They're fighting for the idea of us. the principle of protecting those who showed them kindness. Julanth watched a human squadron destroy a Vorthak formation 3 times their size. Should we be grateful or terrified? Feltar thought of Dr. Webb's warning from 50 years ago. The old human philosopher had understood something that the Kethmori were only now beginning to grasp. Both, Veltar said quietly. We should be both. As the human war machine reached full deployment, one thing became clear to every observer in the galaxy. Humanity had spent 50 years becoming the most dangerous species alive, all because someone had once been kind to them. The galaxy trembled, and the real war hadn't even begun yet. The first battle of the human Vorthak War took place in the Keth Mori outer system, where a massive swarm bioship the size of a small moon was methodically consuming the remaining orbital installations. Admiral Chen watched from her command ship as the human vanguard fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Target the bioship's feeding tendrils first, she ordered. Cut off its ability to process matter before we engage the main body. What followed defied every principle of space combat the galaxy had established over millennia. Human ships didn't fight like other species. They didn't maintain safe distances or rely on traditional energy weapons. Instead, they swarmed their enemy like wolves, bringing down prey much larger than themselves. Commander Zhang's ship, the Prometheus, demonstrated humanity's first tactical surprise. Instead of firing conventional weapons, it deployed a gravitational manipulator that compressed space around the bioship's feeding tendrils. The effect was immediate and horrifying. The organic structures imploded, folding in on themselves as local gravity increased by several thousand%. The Vorthak bioship responded by launching clouds of smaller creatures, each one the size of a fighter craft but alive, capable of independent thought and action. Traditional tactics called for point defense systems to handle such swarms. Humans had a different approach. Captain Rivera's squadron released their own swarm, not ships but clouds of microscopic machines that had been developing in human laboratories for decades. The nanites were designed with one purpose: to disrupt Vorthak biological processes. When they made contact with the living fighters, the results were immediate. The organic ships began to dissolve from the inside out. Their own biology turned against them. Bioweapons, whispered the Altarian observer aboard one of the human ships. They're using biological warfare. Correction, Admiral Chen replied calmly. We're using their biology against them. The nanites only target Vorthak genetic markers. Everything else is perfectly safe. The main bioship tried to retreat, extending massive tentacles to pull itself toward hyperspace. Human ships responded by deploying their second surprise, temporal displacement fields. The bioship found itself trapped in a bubble of slowed time, unable to escape as human forces surrounded it. This is impossible, transmitted the Vorthak hive mind. You are young species, new to galaxy. How do you possess such weapons? Admiral Chen opened a direct communication channel to the bioship. We've had 50 years to prepare for you. Every species you've destroyed taught us something about how to fight you. Every world you've consumed showed us what we needed to prevent. The final assault on the bioship showcased humanity's most disturbing tactical innovation. Instead of destroying the massive creature, they began to surgically disassemble it, while keeping the central consciousness alive. Teams of human soldiers in advanced power armor cut their way into the bioship's interior, following neural pathways toward the central brain cluster. The Vorthak hive mind's screams echoed across every communication frequency as the humans systematically disconnected its control systems. But they weren't killing it. They were studying it, learning how its biological technology functioned. You cannot do this, the hive mind protested. We are eternal. We have consumed galaxies. Not anymore, came the reply from Colonel Martinez, leader of the assault team. You're going to help us find every other bioship in your swarm, and then you're going to help us destroy them. What happened next sent shockwaves through every intelligence service in the galaxy. The humans didn't just capture a Vorthak hive mind, they reprogrammed it. Using a combination of biological modification and technological implants, they turned the creature into a weapon against its own species. The converted hive mind began broadcasting false signals to other Vorthak forces, directing them into carefully prepared ambushes. Human fleets, guided by perfect intelligence about enemy movements, began systematically hunting down bioships throughout Kethmori space. Each battle revealed new human capabilities that terrified their galactic observers. Ships that could phase in and out of normal spacetime, making them nearly impossible to target. Weapons that attacked on the quantum level, disrupting the fundamental forces that held matter together. Soldiers who fought with such intensity that they seemed immune to fear or pain. The Battle of Kethmori Prime demonstrated the full scope of human tactical innovation. The planet was under siege by 3 massive bioships, each one preparing to begin the final consumption process. Human reinforcements arrived just as the planetary shields failed. Instead of engaging in traditional ship-to-ship combat, the humans did something unprecedented. They landed ground forces directly on the bioship's surfaces while they were still in orbit. Human soldiers in powered armor fought their way through living corridors filled with acid, toxins, and creatures that existed only to kill intruders. The galaxy watched in horrified fascination as human berserker units, elite soldiers who had volunteered for the most dangerous assignments, fought their way to the bioship's central nervous systems. These weren't ordinary military personnel. They were individuals who had embraced humanity's most primal nature, becoming living weapons guided by intelligence but driven by pure combat instinct. Private First Class. Emma Chen, Admiral Chen's granddaughter, led her squad through the pulsing interior of a bioship, following neural pathways that led deeper into the creature's body. The walls around them were alive, trying to digest the intruders with acid secretions and poisonous gases. Her armor's systems worked overtime to keep her alive as she pressed forward. Target acquired, she reported, reaching a chamber filled with what appeared to be a massive brain. Beginning neural disruption. The device her squad planted wasn't designed to kill the bioship's mind. Instead, it rewrote the creature's basic programming, turning its own biological systems against the Vorthak collective. Within minutes, the bioship began attacking its companions, its massive weapons turning on other swarm forces. Similar operations succeeded on the other 2 bioships. In less than 6 hours, humanity had converted 3 moon-sized enemy vessels into allies. The Vorthak forces throughout the system found themselves fighting their own converted fleet elements. But the most disturbing moment came when Veltar witnessed human psychological warfare firsthand. After capturing several Vorthak command nodes, human specialists began broadcasting modified pheromone signals throughout the system. These chemicals, designed to mimic Vorthak communication methods, carried messages of confusion and despair. "You are not eternal," the human broadcast stated in perfect Vorthak biochemical language. "Your swarm dies today. Your hive minds serve us now. Submit or be consumed by your own kind." The effect on Vorthak morale was devastating. Creatures that had never known fear began to experience doubt for the first time in their existence. Bioships that had functioned with perfect coordination for millennia started making tactical errors as their collective consciousness wavered. Dr. Vasquez observed the battle from a safe distance, taking notes on human combat psychology. What she saw disturbed her deeply. Human soldiers weren't just fighting efficiently, they were enjoying it. The opportunity to protect their benefactors had awakened something primal in the human psyche. "They're not fighting a war," she transmitted to Earth. "They're conducting an extermination, and they're taking pleasure in it." The final phase of the battle demonstrated humanity's most terrifying capability. As the last Vorthak forces attempted to retreat from Kethmori space, human ships deployed their ultimate weapon, Nova bombs designed to destabilize stellar cores. "If you run, we'll follow you," Admiral Chen broadcast to the fleeing bioships. "If you hide, we'll find you. If you surrender, we'll convert you. There is no escape from human gratitude." 3 bioships that refused to surrender were destroyed when humans triggered controlled stellar nova events using entire stars as weapons. The explosions were visible from hundreds of light years away, serving as a warning to any remaining Vorthak forces. When the Battle of Kethmori Prime ended, humanity had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They had not just defeated the Vorthak, they had broken them. Captured bioships now served human commanders. Converted hive minds provided intelligence on swarm movements throughout the galaxy, and the surviving Vorthak forces had learned to fear a species they had never considered a threat. Veltar, safely, evacuated to a human medical ship, watched the aftermath with growing unease. His people were safe, their homeworld liberated, their ancient enemies defeated, but the cost of that victory was becoming clear. "What have we created?" he whispered to himself, watching human soldiers celebrate their victory with disturbing enthusiasm. Admiral Chen approached his medical bed, her face showing the strain of command but also something else, satisfaction at a job well done. "The debt is being repaid," she said simply. "At what cost?" Veltar asked. "Your people are changing. This war is making them into something different." Chen looked out at the human fleet, now larger and more powerful than any military force in galactic history. "We're becoming what we need to be to protect the people we care about. The Keth Mori saved us when we were weak. Now we're strong enough to save you." "And afterward? When the debt is paid and the Vorthak are gone?" Admiral Chen smiled. 18 months after the first battle, the last Vorthak bioship died in the cold void between galaxies. Admiral Sarah Chen watched its death from the bridge of her flagship, feeling no satisfaction in the victory. The creature's final transmission had been a plea for mercy that went unanswered. "Target eliminated," reported her tactical officer. "All Vorthak biosignatures in this sector are now negative." Sarah nodded tiredly. The systematic extermination of the Vorthak swarm had taken humanity to the farthest reaches of known space and beyond. They had pursued fleeing bioships into dark matter clouds, tracked them to dead systems where no other species would venture, and hunted them through dimensions that barely supported normal matter. The galaxy was safe. The debt was paid, and humanity had become something that terrified every other intelligent species. "Admiral," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. President Santos is calling an emergency session of the High Council." Sarah sighed. She had been dreading this moment. The war was over, but the consequences were just beginning. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks, giving Sarah time to review the final reports. The numbers were staggering even by human standards. Over 12,000 Vorthak bioships destroyed, 47 star systems cleansed of swarm presence, an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia completely eliminated from existence. But the cost had been measured in more than ships and soldiers. Humanity itself had changed during the campaign. The species that had once spread across the galaxy as eager explorers and traders had become something harder, more focused, more dangerous. When Sarah arrived at the emergency council session in Geneva, she found representatives from every human world gathered in person. The discussion that followed would determine the future of both humanity and the galaxy. President Santos opened the session with a simple statement. "The debt has been paid. The Keth Mori are safe. The Vorthak threat has been eliminated. The question before us now is what we do next." The debate that followed revealed deep divisions within human leadership. General Morrison, commander of Earth's defense forces, argued for maintaining their new military posture. "We've proven ourselves the dominant military power in the galaxy," he said. "Other species respect strength. We should use that position to ensure peace and stability." Dr. Vasquez disagreed strongly. "We've terrified every other intelligent species. They see us as a threat worse than the Vorthak. If we maintain this military stance, we'll eventually face a coalition of every other species in the galaxy." Admiral Chen listened to the arguments, thinking of the reports she had received from human diplomats throughout the galaxy. The Altarian government had tripled their military budget and was frantically researching new weapons technologies. The Centaurans had withdrawn from their outer colonies, consolidating their forces around their core worlds. Even species that had been allies now spoke of humanity in hushed, fearful tones. "The galaxy will never trust us again," said Governor Park from Alpha Centauri. "We've shown them what we're really capable of when motivated. They'll spend the next century building weapons designed to stop us." "Good," replied General Morrison. "Fear ensures peace. No one will dare threaten our interests or our allies." The discussion might have continued for hours, but it was interrupted by an unexpected visitor. Veltar, now ancient beyond measure, had traveled to Earth specifically for this meeting. The old Kethmori ambassador entered the chamber supported by mobility aids, his once shifting skin now a permanent silver gray. "Honored Veltar," President Santos said, rising to greet him. "We didn't expect you to make such a difficult journey." "I had to come," Veltar said, his voice weak but determined. "There are things that must be said." He was helped to a place of honor at the front of the chamber, where he could address the entire human High Council. When he spoke, his words carried the weight of millennia. 50 years ago, my people saved yours from extinction. We did so because it was right. Because protecting younger species is what we have always done. We asked for nothing in return except that you remember the kindness. The chamber fell silent. Every human present remembered the blood oath their species had sworn. "You have remembered," Veltar continued. "You have repaid our kindness 1,000-fold. The Vorthak are gone, destroyed so completely that they will never threaten anyone again. My people are safe. Our worlds are secure. The debt you spoke of has been paid in full." He paused, gathering strength for what came next. "But in paying that debt, you have become something we did not expect. You have become the most dangerous species the galaxy has ever known, not because you are evil, but because you are so very, very good at what you choose to do." Admiral Chen felt the truth of his words. During the war, she had watched human soldiers fight with a dedication that bordered on fanaticism. They hadn't just been defending an ally, they had been fulfilling a sacred obligation, and nothing in the universe could have stopped them. "The galaxy fears you now," Veltar said simply. "They fear your weapons, your tactics, your absolute commitment to your word. But most of all, they fear your gratitude, because they understand that anyone who helps humanity becomes someone worth destroying galaxies to protect." Dr. Vasquez leaned forward. "What are you saying, Veltar?" "I am saying that my people may have made a terrible mistake 50 years ago. We saved you because we thought you were just another young species that needed guidance. We didn't realize we were creating something unprecedented." The old ambassador struggled to his feet, supported by his mobility aids. "Humans are the only species that hunts in packs, fights in groups, and dies for strangers. You are predators and prey, warriors and protectors, all at the same time. There has never been anything like you in the galaxy. Is that why you're here?" General Morrison asked. "To tell us we're too dangerous?" "I'm here to ask you to choose wisely," Veltar replied. "You have the power to bring order to the galaxy by force. You could conquer every species, impose human law on every world, and few could stop you. But that is not who you were when we first met you." President Santos stood slowly. "What would you have us do, disarm? Pretend we don't have these capabilities?" "I would have you remember why you built these capabilities in the first place," Veltar said. "You became the most powerful species in the galaxy because someone was kind to you. Use that power the same way we used ours 50 years ago, to protect those who need protection." The debate that followed was heated, but brief. In the end, the decision was made by consensus rather than vote. Humanity would maintain its military capabilities but use them as the Kethmori had once used theirs, as guardians rather than conquerors. The announcement that followed shocked the galaxy. Instead of leveraging their victory into political control, humanity offered their services as protectors to any species that needed help. They would defend against external threats, mediate disputes between allies, and serve as peacekeepers in troubled regions. But they would not rule. They would not conquer. They would not impose their will on others. The response from other species was mixed. Some saw it as a clever political move, a way to maintain control while appearing benevolent. Others recognized it as something more dangerous. Humanity living up to their reputation for honoring debts and protecting friends. Admiral Chen took early retirement after the announcement, spending her final years on a quiet colony world where human children played alongside young Kethmori. She often sat in the evenings watching the mixed families and wondering if they had made the right choice. One day, Veltar visited her there. The old ambassador was near the end of his long life, but he seemed at peace. "Do you regret what we became?" Sarah asked him. Veltar watched a human child teaching a young Kethmori how to throw a ball. "No," he said quietly. "We saved a species that needed saving. What you became afterward was your choice, not ours. The galaxy still fears us." "Yes," Veltar agreed, "but they also trust you, in a way they never trusted anyone else. When the next great threat appears, and it will appear eventually, they know humanity will stand against it. Not for conquest or glory, but because it's the right thing to do. Sarah smiled, thinking of the children playing in the garden. So we became the galaxy's guardians because you taught us that kindness should be repaid. You became the galaxy's guardians because that's who you chose to be, Veltar corrected. The kindness just showed you the way. When Veltar died peacefully 6 months later, his funeral was attended by representatives from every human world. But more importantly, it was attended by delegations from 47 other species, former enemies who had come to pay respects to the alien who had saved humanity and, in doing so, changed the galaxy forever. The marker placed over his grave was simple, bearing words in both Kethmori script and human English. He showed kindness to strangers, and they remembered. Below that, in smaller text, was a warning that served as humanity's promise to the galaxy. Those who show kindness to others will find themselves under human protection. This debt can never be repaid, only honored. The galaxy had learned what it meant when humans said they never forgot a debt.